Ding, 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 ding. How much waiting? We need elevator music to play before these live streams start. Welcome back to Tailosive Tech Live on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have an ever so slight update on our previous report with the Apple Watch Series 7. It kind of imitates how small the screen size improvement really is, but it is still a screen size improvement nonetheless. This has only happened once before in 2018, and now it sounds like 2021 might be the next one. I'm guessing Apple is kind of pushing the limits, pushing the boundaries of how big they can make the display of the Apple Watch without completely destroying all of your old Apple Watch collections, which won't be able to work anymore if they go too big. So they're basically trying to figure out how much larger the display can be with you still being able to use your old watch bands, which I'm glad matters because obviously there's a ton of people with Apple Watch band collections that have gone way too far. Let's be honest with ourselves. You know, some people have bought far too many of these things, and they are going to absolutely lose their minds if they find out the next generation Apple Watch doesn't work with their old watch bands. But that's okay, because according to this report, it seems like we should be good. This is coming from Uncle Pan over on Weibo, who's saying that the official millimeter screen sizes for the Series 7 are 41 and 45, so that's a 1 millimeter improvement. Not as drastic, probably, as the Series 4 upgrade, which was when they went from 42 to 44. Yeah, they have it right here. That's when they made the jump from 38 to 40. So if you thought that the jump from your Series 3 to your Series 4 was big, then this should be about half as big a jump, as in, like, noticeable but not major. This will be the second change of Apple Watch's display size since 2018, which I guess is not that regular. That's the only time. But they did officially confirm, saying, well, we shouldn't use the term confirm, but they did state in this report that new and old bands are universal. So while I don't know much about Uncle Pan, I personally believe this report because I think we're getting incredibly close to Apple Watch Series 7 launching, and I feel like at this point, mass production has likely already started. Lots of supply chains are probably well aware of what's going on, so the idea of there being suppliers well aware of the screen sizes and the dimensions and the CAD files and all that type of information being public makes sense to me as we're getting this close. If this does end up being incorrect, it's a very, very obvious way to go back on someone and say, hey, they were completely wrong because the report's not that old. I mean, we're less than a month away now from Series 7, so that's why I think as we get closer, the believability of the reports is more and more likely. Why would someone go with a small screen watch? I don't know. I think that the 38 millimeter was a harder sell for people. Thank you for the super chat, Alpha. But back in the old days, pre-Series 4, basically all the Apple Watches before 2018, I knew a lot of people that were very surprised by how small the Apple Watch display was, especially back when it originally shipped, like the first generation Apple Watch. A ton of people got the 38 millimeter and instantly regretted it and returned it. And there were even a ton of people, I recall, unboxing the 42 millimeter option, and they were getting the big Apple Watch and going, oh, really? This is the big one? Like, this is actually, like, pretty small. Like, people were surprised and kind of shocked by how small even the biggest Apple Watch was. But since then, it has now changed, obviously. I think the narrative is a bit different now with 40 and 44 millimeters because the usable space, there's a good graphic I think Apple has on their website. I want to find it because... is it here? Hold on. Key differences. Oh, yeah. Okay, I found it. So this is on the compare page of Apple's website for the different watches. So this is the 40 millimeter case versus 38. So footprint's about the same, but I think the main takeaway is you get about the same amount of usable screen space. Yeah, so it doesn't really... oh, yeah, square millimeter area. 42 is 740, and then the 40 millimeter is 759. So basically, the smaller watch now gives you more square millimeters than the old biggest Apple Watch, which is why I think more people have gotten comfortable with the 40 millimeter because obviously it's smaller, so it doesn't weigh as much on your wrist. It's not a huge difference because you don't hold it, but it does make a little bit of a difference for people, especially if they're getting the steel watches. Those will add a bit of weight, and when you're moving your arm around or your wrist around, you can feel a bit of a chonk there swinging around. So I think that it makes sense for certain demographics, although 38 millimeter is probably too small now. 40 is good enough, but 41 will be better. I know that 1 millimeter doesn't sound like a big difference, but when we're talking about screen sizes this small, I do think it's a tad more noticeable. 40 millimeter UI size is very similar to 42. I think they both use the same text and UI scale. Oh, interesting. I didn't even know that. Smaller watch will now have almost the screen size of the original big screen watch. Yeah, well, I think just because of the bezels, it's already larger. But yeah, in regards to just pure millimeters, it's pretty much spot on. With Apple Watches, I like to upgrade every 3 years, Series 1 to Series 5, so I'll wait till the Series 8. Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, there's definitely not a huge reason to upgrade your watch every single year. If you are the type of person to do that, you're probably going to be complacent / bored very quickly with the new watches, because as far as we can tell with the Series 7, there is not any major functional differences. This is just a purely aesthetic upgrade. We have not heard anything about new health sensors, definitely no glucose monitoring, or, we have already got always on display, so... Yeah, I think it's safe to just assume that this is an aesthetic upgrade above all, and they just want it to match the rest of the ecosystem with the squared-off iPads, squared-off iPhones, which I appreciate personally, but I'm having my own internal dilemma on whether or not I want to upgrade my watch just over aesthetics. My battery health is fine. It works perfectly. I personally think the Series 6 has overkill health sensors. Like, I do not need to check my blood oxygen levels. I can probably count on one hand how many times I've done an ECG in the past year. I probably did the most ECGs just when I was reviewing the Series 4 and showing people, like, it's cool, it's interesting, and it's amazing that they can pack that much tech into one tech product that can fit on your wrist. But is it something you do regularly? I don't think so. Are you reviewing the Z Flip / C Fold 3? A lot of people have asked me that, but I think basically the way I think about them has been provided in my videos about them. I've reviewed the Z Flip 2 and wait, not the 2. I reviewed the original Z Flip. Wasn't the 2 just like the same but with 5G? I don't even remember what the 2 was, but the new ones don't seem different enough for me to change my opinion much on them. When I reviewed Android phones last year, most people were just like, okay, Drew, we get it. Blood oxygen is good during COVID. It's not that accurate, though, is the thing. It's like your blood oxygen level is not super accurate measured via your wrist. And pretty much no matter what I check it, it's always going to say somewhere between 97 and 100%. And I don't really know how useful that information is. So I'll say this again. I said this last year, but I still stand by my point after owning the Series 6 now for almost a year. I guess I got it in September of last year. So yeah, we're coming up on its first birthday. I would have bought any Apple Watch that came in the product red color and had obviously like the Series 4 display size. So if the product red came in the SE version and I could have got this for $300, I totally would have done that. Would I sacrifice the ECG and the blood oxygen and the always on display for a cheaper price but the same look? Absolutely. As you can tell, I'm not even using the always on display right now. I've used it on occasion, but oftentimes I run into scenarios where I just want to prioritize battery life, because like I did a little quick weekend trip where I was away from home for a while over the past weekend, and instead of wanting to charge my watch, I just decided, turn off the always on display, and I didn't need to charge my watch at all during the whole trip. So the battery life is just way better as soon as you turn it off. Wish they would expand the use of blood oxygen to do things like notify you when it gets low. That's the thing. I believe because of how inaccurate it is, they got to bypass some FDA approval process. Let me see if I can find that article. I read it a while ago. Apple Watch, blood oxygen. Is it like, because people were like, how come this one seems substantially less accurate / useful? Apple needed the FDA to sign off on its EKG. Doesn't need. Well, this is Forbes, so take this all with a grain of salt, I guess. But this makes it blood oxygen level definitely. Oh my god! If you make oximeter general if you make the oximeter as a general wellness product, not a health or medical device, this is not necessary. And apparently, that's the route Apple went from. So they don't get to qualify it as an actual medical device. Extensive conversations with Apple about the new watch. Everything I heard stressed that this was not a medical tool, but aimed at general wellness. So I don't even know what you're supposed to do with that information. This doesn't mean Apple didn't make it accurate, merely that it hasn't been tested to be so by certain authorities. In my own test, comparing it to a regular pulse oximeter and to other health devices, which, I guess I can show you this, which measure blood oxygen, I've personally found it to be very much in line. Okay, so maybe it's more accurate than I thought. I'm not a doctor. It's certainly easy to use. In and around 100 readings, it has only said it came up with an inconclusive reading, literally one or twice. Why didn't Apple seek clearance? Perhaps because the company was happy with the accuracy and didn't feel it needed to, or just didn't want to share information which would have revealed Apple was working on such a feature before the official announcement. It's not a good reason to not get it approved by the FDA. But it does not have FDA clearance, which is why I'm like, basically what they're saying when they say it's good for general wellness is that it's kind of fun information. It's like, here's the data. Do what you want with it. I don't know what you want to do with it, but you can do something with it. Which is kind of like, fine, I guess. But basically, you use it a couple of times when you're first playing around with the watch, and then you never use it again. I would totally get the SE if it had this color. Absolutely. My Series 4 detected atrial defibrillation a lot, so I went to cardiologist and having ablation on October 20th. Wow. Good. I'm glad it caught that. Is that the one that it catches with the ECG, or is that the one it catches with the typical heart rate monitor? Because I've discovered, I've heard a lot of people say that the irregular heart rate detection is what brought people to their cardiologist. But I want to hear more about this, Jay. How often did you take ECGs, if that was the solution? How do you feel about Apple going into a hole punch display? I'm not a huge fan of it. I mean, it's fine. I don't think it's like a deal breaker. I just think it's not that different. Like, to me, it just seems like a lot of work. You have to change your supply chains. You have to change the manufacturing process to account for it. And from what I've seen with camera holes on phones is that you typically have to actually move the camera down a tad further. It's not a lot, but just you have to move it down a tad further so that the pixels can reach behind the camera and the top bezel, to the point where if you're watching a video or something, you have to add a lot of black bar and you have to turn off a lot of pixels to cancel out the camera hole, which I'm definitely not a fan of, because then it means like if you're watching a video, you have to punch in a lot or add a lot of black bars to get rid of the camera hole. So I totally understand why Apple doesn't want to adopt that in anytime soon, because I don't think average consumers would care or notice. It seems like it's probably a decent amount of work and a decent amount of effort on the supply chain side to get all of that switched over from a notch into now just a punch hole in the top. And you would probably please a couple people in the tech community, but overall people I don't think would think anything of it. I think average consumers would still just think, okay, that's the camera. Whether or not it's a notch or a hole, they're just like, you got to have a spot for the camera until we find a way to effectively and efficiently put the camera completely underneath the display without the pixelation, which is what we see on the Galaxy Z Fold 3. And I've seen close-ups of that under display camera several times, and frankly, I don't know if I'm a fan. Like, I don't know how I feel about it. It's technically impressive, don't get me wrong. It's interesting that on the Fold 3 they can like have a really low pixel density right over the camera so that it technically works, but also instead of the camera hole you have like a display with colors that kind of changes. But from what I've seen in the close-up pictures and videos of it, maybe it's different in person, I don't know, but it's like a very noticeable pixelation on that portion of the display. And I feel that it's like, it almost looks like a display malfunction, even though that's not what it is. I'm not sure. Maybe I shouldn't probably come up with a definitive opinion until I've tried it myself. But from the videos I've seen of it so far, I think I would rather just have a black camera hole than like one part of the display that's kind of pixelated and you can notice that it's kind of distorted there. To me, it looks like something's wrong with the screen, even though it's not. That's just supposed to be how it looks. I think I would rather just have the hole or the notch because people see that and know automatically that's the camera. So it's not trying to trick anyone. But the Z Fold 3 is a low-volume, high-priced product, so it makes sense for Samsung to experiment with this technology on the Fold first. Also, there's so many freaking cameras on the Z Fold 3. Like, if you want to use the rear-facing camera as the selfie cam, you can use it unfolded like that. So makes perfect sense if they wanted to toy around with this hardware. Do it in the Fold 3 first, I agree, because that camera probably will get the least amount of use, and there's total backups you can go with, whereas if they brought that under-display camera to the Galaxy S21 or S20, you have to use that camera. There's not really a way around it as easily, so yeah. Yes, regular cardiologist visit from Marfan disease, but watch alerted me. Well, that's good. I'm glad the watch alerted you. I'm just checking. How did it detect atrial defibrillation? Maybe I need to check more often. I should watch out for my heart. Martin Gell says, thanks to you, I bought an M1 Air from Certified Refurbished for a bigger discount than what I would get from my student discount. And my God, the M1 is miles better than my 2018 Air. Yay! Certified Refurbished saves the day. Tell everyone in the chat, Martin Gell. We need people to be convinced. Certified Refurbished. It's the instant Apple discount, and you can keep your warranty going. I wish the stainless steel Apple Watch isn't the price of a Mac Mini. I know. It is pretty pricey, but it is quite desirable. Zach Hicks says those refurbs are the way to go. I got an M1 iMac refurbished, got even further discount because I'm military. Wow. Double prizes. Wonderful. The only downside, Zach, is you got the M1 iMac, which you got to look at that thing all the time. I kid. Alpha Super Chat, is the Note dead? I thought I heard, I could be wrong, but didn't Samsung say that they're not doing one this year because of the chip shortage, but they still plan on doing one next year? Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that was the last thing I heard, was that they just didn't need to do one now, but they still plan on doing more in the future. I would honestly say, like, if the Fold was able to find a way to embed the pen inside it, then I could see that replacing the Note. But currently, the $1,800 Galaxy Fold doesn't come with the S Pen. And if you buy the S Pen, there's no way to attach it to phone, so you have to buy another like $30 or $50 case that specifically adds a place for the pen, and it makes the phone far more clunky. So, yeah, I could see why, of all phones Samsung makes, the Note is probably the one on the chopping block. Like, that's the one they're not sure they see a point in keeping it around. I agree. I just don't think the market for people who want a stylus built into their phone is very high. I acknowledge it exists. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I hear you. There are people out there that definitely like that. I just think that they're in shrinking number. And, you know, companies have to pick their battles. It takes a lot of time and money to develop these phones and figure out supply chains and figure out mass production of them. So getting all of that down has to be worth it. And if there's not enough people to buy into it, then it's just not worth it for the company, even if there is a market for it. Just like in a similar way, I want Apple to keep making small phones. I love the size of my 12 mini. Although every time I go on a trip, like I did this weekend, I start to get more annoyed with the battery life. Like, we just had basic GPS navigation on for like 3 hours. And by the time we got to our destination, it was dead, or almost dead. And I was like, really? Battery health has gone down a tad. I don't have it in front of me. I don't know what it is. I think it's like 96 or 95%. So I'm excited for the 13 mini. I'm glad they're making better battery life in that one. And I hope Apple keeps making mini iPhones, because I do believe there's a decent market for it and people that appreciate that. But if Apple doesn't see it in the sales figures, they don't see the numbers, they're not going to keep making it. So it's hard to face that reality. Zach says he got a $1,500 iMac for $1,150. Wow. Yeah, that's a really good deal. I want to find that. Rob Hannah says, I had a notification of high heart rate overnight. After an unrelated event the next morning, I got another high heart rate from my Apple Watch. I decided to run an ECG. AFib caught. Wow. I hope you're okay, Rob, but also at the same time, that's impressive. Like, I'm not trying to take away from the danger of the situation, because I hope you can see a cardiologist and get everything figured out. Where is Jay? He said, pretty sure it works like fault detection, mostly analytics. Yeah, because the Apple Watch SE has a heart rate monitor, so that can measure irregular heart rate patterns. Love your show. Long-time subscriber. Oh, thanks, Jay. Appreciate that. What if the Mini 6 was an iPhone Fold? The Mini 6 can fold just once. You can just fold it up once, put it in your pocket, and then never use it again. Want to see how the fold screen holds up with S Pen over time? Yeah, watching the videos of people using the S Pen on the Fold's display was not encouraging. It definitely was like, ugh, because you can see it like warping, especially as it goes over the crease. It's like an ocean of pixels you're playing over. Is the 12 mini literally the only option for a small smartphone? If it is, then if that goes bust, my family who only uses small phones will have a hard time upgrading in the future. I don't think it's the only option for smartphone. It's probably the only option for premium small phone. Like iPhone SE is still pretty small. It's pretty dang close to the size of the 12 mini. It's slightly larger, but that's still planning on sticking around. I haven't heard anybody say that Apple's planning on scrapping the SE entirely. Let's see. Cornelia says, one of the only gingers I tolerate. Wow. I'm incredibly honored. What do you think about future MacBook Pro prices? Yeah, I guess we talked a little bit about it in today's video, but I think it's mostly what I predicted. If I remember correctly, it's been a while. I film and edit my own videos, and after editing them, I've heard myself say it, and now I've watched myself say it, so I'm not really watching my tech videos after editing them very regularly. But my general prediction was that the M1X MacBook Pros would basically be around the same price as all the Macs they're replacing. So I'm not sure where this price hike report came from. I thought the wording for that was a little confusing. Maybe there were people thinking that the M1X 14-inch MacBook Pro was going to replace these two, which that was never my assumption personally. My thought process was they were going to replace these two. So you have your 2-port MacBook Pros sticking around because Apple likes making cheaper versions of the MacBook Pro. And then down here, the 4-port options, these two were going to be replaced by the M1X. And obviously these start at $1,800, which was essentially what Mac Rumors was alluding to in the report. So they claimed that's a price hike, I guess, because it's not the same price as these two. But I don't know. Maybe I interpreted that wrong. Maybe I should have assumed that the 14-inch MacBook Pro will start at $2,000. But honestly, like, all of the Apple Silicon Macs have not cost more than the Macs they replace. So I don't expect the M1X to be an exception to that. You think we are getting a one more thing? Well, last year we had a whole event that was just a one more thing. The whole event was about one chip, and it was over in 40 minutes. So I don't think they do one more things that often. I'm going to guess no. I would love one, though. I would love a one more thing to be like Apple Car coming the next couple of years. Apple Bot, making humanoid robots that punch you if you don't buy the latest iPhone. That makes perfect sense. Okay. Zaquavian Ace says, Drew, I need your help. I'm getting an Apple Watch for the first time, and what is the best one to get? I really like the square design on the Series 7. If you like the square design, then I guess wait a couple of weeks for the Series 7 to come out. I expect the price to be around the same as the 6, but if the price is too high, I still don't think there's anything wrong with the SE. I would still recommend that over and over and over again because I think it's perfectly adequate for what most people need a smartwatch for. I think the only people that are buying the Series 6 or the Series 7 are the people who don't need advice. They're not the people that are like, should I get it? I don't know. I'm torn. Should I get it with the ECG? It's like either you know about it, you know its features and you know you can't live without them, because, you know, I've met some people that are just like, I need the always on display, no question. I absolutely have to have that. It's like, okay, you don't need my opinion. But if you're undecided, go with the SE. It's like the if in doubt, do without mentality of like, if you don't know about the differences between the 6 and the SE, just get the SE. Because more than likely, the only people that should be getting the 6 or the 7 are the people that know everything about it already. And they know that there's a feature or a health sensor in there that they totally need and cannot live without. Nimsy says, foldable phones, in my opinion, are a hassle. As Drew mentioned, there's literally no benefit to the Z Flip apart from fitting better in the pocket. Z Fold too expensive. Yeah, I thought Marquez actually brought up some good points in his Z Fold 3 review. He was like, by design, you kind of have to put up with a clunky, tall, skinny display without the device unfolding. And there's just some very basic smartphone tasks that will always fundamentally struggle with. Even if durability is not a problem, even if they somehow got the price way, way down, there's some like inherent built-in flaws with that. Let's see. When Apple does release the M1X Max, will you buy it immediately or will you wait a few months and buy it certified refurbished? Basically both. I think I'll definitely buy them to review, but the ones that I keep and plan on using, maybe that I would wait for certified refurbished. The funny thing about that is there's a chance I could buy my own MacBook again, because when you buy an Apple product and return it, it typically goes into the certified refurbished process. So I could lose the Mac and end up buying the exact same one. Very low likelihood. I'm just saying it's possible. But I'm still like undecided because I'm still tempted to see like a lot of my buying decision will just depend on how fast the M1X chip is. If it's like slightly faster than my iMac Pro, then that would definitely make me want to wait for the Mac Pro that's rumored. The smaller one that's probably cheaper with really great performance, something even higher end than the M1X. But if it's miles better than my iMac Pro, then I would be more interested in upgrading sooner rather than later. Because I'm like, okay, this is good enough for me. I don't need anything more crazy than this. And yeah, now that we're hearing the 14-inch to be similar in performance, basically equal with the 16-inch, that might make it a lot more tempting to people. You can get it for much cheaper. Let's see. Having 12.9-inch iPad Pro makes 13-inch MacBook feel claustrophobic for me. iPad, when put horizontally, is bigger height-wise. I hope the 14-inch MacBook Pro is bigger enough vertically for me. Yeah, it's really not that big a jump when you think about it, because our MacBook Pros are already 13.3. So 14 might even be less than an inch bigger, but I'm hoping it comes with thinner bezels overall, just because the basic MacBook Pro look has always had these fairly large bezels. It's the same bezels on the MacBook Air. But the 16-inch MacBook Pro, especially in person, those bezels look gorgeous. I love it. Do you still have that other 32-inch monitor? No, my buddy Ross, who got the red Komodo, was needing it a lot more than I was for HDR-type content, so he's using it now. Are iPads going to become anything more than iPad? Ooh, the real questions. That's what I'm afraid of. I have a feeling that Apple fundamentally sees them as not being any more than just basic social media, YouTube, and occasional photo editing and some very light video editing, and they don't want to really push it more than that. Because it's like, if they've got the M1 chip now, why wouldn't you give it more power? Why wouldn't you give it more performance? They totally could, and yet they don't. So my question is, like, if not now, then when? What are we waiting for exactly if it's got so much overkill hardware? T. Parker Evans says, always on display is underrated and much more convenient for checking the time without making it obvious when in a meeting or in a conversation. I guess I just don't find myself in that many situations. Also, I don't care if someone thinks it's rude for me to check the time. It's okay. Especially if someone's talking to you for an extended period of time and you got to get going. I kind of love that subtle, well, maybe I shouldn't say passive-aggressive, but passive look at the watch. It's like a subtle, polite way of letting someone know I've got things going on. I got to get going. I don't want to just... Plus, I think that awkwardness that you're talking about of, like, looking at your watch to see if it's time to go or something, that happens when you break eye contact, not when you turn the wrist. If your display is on and you can see the time without having to turn your wrist and you go something like, look at your watch like that. It doesn't matter if you've tilted the wrist or whatnot. I don't think always on display is underrated. I think that the accuracy of the Apple Watch display turning on when you want it to is underrated, because I've had tremendous success. Like there's so few times in my personal life, again, this has been off for several weeks now. There's been so little times that I've run into the situation of like, oh, the display should have lit up and it didn't, so I had to do this again. Like the only slight circumstance I ran into was like when I was driving my car and holding my wife's hand, and my hand was on the steering wheel and I wanted to see what time it is. But even then, I shouldn't be doing that. My eyes should be on the road. Plus, the car has a freaking clock in it anyway. I don't know why I just look at that. Welcome to the iPad Pro Club, yeah. I don't want the HDMI port. Why is Apple giving me a single-purpose port for something I won't ever use? Well, I've been saying the same thing with headphone jack for a while. I think that way with Lightning on my iPhone, but you just don't use it. If it annoys you, just don't plug anything into it. Pretend it's not there. Get some cement, seal it in. Hey, there's Big Truck Series Review Motorsports. He says, all I'm waiting for is that 1 terabyte iPhone announcement. I may pop a bottle of champagne. Not sure if I'll sell my Pro Max or give it to one of my parents. Oh, that'd be nice of you. I think we should get some champagne ready. If they do announce it for iPhone Day, that's going to be top of my list, what I'm most excited for when it comes to iPhone announcements. 1 terabyte storage option. We need this more than anything else. Who cares about 120 hertz? Who cares about ProRes? Who cares about portrait mode video? Who cares about better battery life? 1 terabyte for just one viewer. That's it. That's all we care about. Marngel says, you've said in the past that iPad Pro is your favorite Apple product. Is that still the case now, or what is your currently favorite Apple product that you own? Yeah, it's still the case. I just think hardware overall is just amazing. Like, I love the smart connector accessories. I love 120 hertz. I love Face ID being working in landscape and in portrait. Type-C, the speakers are still amazing. It's by far not my favorite operating system. I think it's okay to differentiate a little bit, There's a lot of people where the Apple product is their favorite Apple product is the iPhone, but there's probably a ton of stuff that macOS does that iOS doesn't. So macOS might be their favorite operating system, but the iPhone might be their favorite hardware. So maybe I should preface that. I don't think overall there's been another Apple product that has wowed me as much as the iPad Pro has, like in just terms of great hardware and software experience. I wanted more from my iPad Pro, and I guess the reason I don't care so much about iPadOS 15 being a disappointment with this is because, like, it's 3 years old, and I wasn't really, even when I was ranting about iPads not getting macOS dual boot option or iPads not getting Final Cut, I was still kind of pitching all that with the idea of, okay, make it only for the M1 chip iPad Pro. Like, Apple, you can upsell people for whatever reason or say that, no, we couldn't get it working on the A12X, but we could get it working on the M1. I don't care what BS excuse you have, just some reason for people to upgrade their iPad Pro and some reason to justify the M1 chip and saying something like, we could only do this incredible software on the M1. We couldn't do it on anything weaker. So it doesn't really have that, it's just, I bought it for the basics, and that's what it does. When I bought the 2018 iPad Pro way back in October of 3 years ago, I wasn't really, I was hoping that Pro apps would come to it, but that wasn't the expectation. I was excited enough in just having an iPad, even a basic one, where all it did was, social media, but it had the great USB-C, it had the great speakers, it had the great biometrics, the great display. It was very lightweight. Like, I'm just still overall impressed with, like, year-over-year generations. I feel like Apple has still yet to top the 2018 iPad Pro upgrade. Like, every year has just been another iteration on that original game changer. And at this point, I would recommend people still buy a certified refurbished 2018 iPad Pro long before I would recommend them buy a 2020 or a M1 iPad Pro. Like, I would still say, nope, this is way better for the money. M1 iPad Pro and the 2020 iPad Pro even have just made slight iterations on this design to try to get you to spend more money. It's like, aha, get mini LED, haha, get center stage. The M1 chip's crazy fast, but I don't think the value has ever been as good as it was since then. Super chat from Matthew Venton. Didn't say anything, but thank you for the donation. Checking around. I did see the MKBHD video about the Tesla bot. I did watch that one today, actually. I thought he kind of missed the point. Like, I felt like there was... I think he's comparing it a bit too much to tech products like Roombas or smartphones and cameras. Like when he starts asking about like what colors does it come in, I'm like... I think he's comparing it to other robots when he should be comparing it to probably manual labor, which is what the Tesla bot is going after. Like, I acknowledge and I understand other humanoid robots have existed in the past and obviously not really taken off or gone anywhere. But the main reason Tesla's getting into this is because of their neural net training, which they believe can be self-taught and learn a lot of basic human tasks just by watching humans do their job. And the market for a generalized machine is far larger usually than individual machines. You know, like Michael L. I think was saying this in the Discord earlier today. It was like there's a reason it's easier for Apple to just make an iPhone than it is for them to make an iPod, a camera, a phone. Like combine all these different products into one, and the addressable market is much larger because now you can address the camera market, you can address the music player market, you can address the smartphone market, you can address all kinds of third-party applications that have blown up. So it's like, I don't think that generally making a specific robot for every single task is as scalable or as profitable. If you can get the neural net training down and a computer is able to teach itself a task, then a humanoid footprint for the robot actually makes far more sense because now it can easily tackle basically anything, any manual labor job. It can go after that and learn it just as well as a human can, if not better, because it doesn't get tired and it can work longer and it can get paid far less. So yeah, I think I'd love to sit down and have a conversation with him about it because I think he's looking at it too short term. And I think that he missed kind of the general premise of why they unveiled it. And I also don't think Tesla's a car company. I think they're an energy company that happens to make cars. But Marquez was like, so Tesla's a car company. I was like, nothing about their mission statement has anything to do with cars. But anyway. Side rant. Matthew Venton super chatted. Oh, an Alpha super chatted. He said Mac Pro processor and iPad Pro. At this point, with all of the counter arguments I've seen with people saying like, well, you know, it's not about necessarily the iPad Pro having the software to take advantage of the M1 chip. It's about longevity and it's about making sure that it can get lots and lots of updates over time. And it's about overhead, like giving it more performance than it needs. That way the apps aren't limited. It's like, then yeah, at that point, why not give the M1X? Why not put the M1X in the iPad Pro? You could make that same argument. Be like, even more powerful. Put the M1T or whatever the chip they put in the Mac Pro. Put that chip in the iPad Pro for the sake of longevity. I'm saying this to kind of prove a point, but I bet there's a bunch of people out there that are like, yeah, actually, we're gonna do that. We're gonna put a freaking Mac Pro chip in an iPad because we can, and longevity argument. It's like, it just feels kind of wasteful. I'll be honest. Just feels kind of unnecessary. Marngel says the 2018 Pro really was insanely ahead of its time. Even after getting the M1 Air and iPhone 12, it still feels at least very current to me. Oh, yeah, I agree. It was far ahead of its time. Pretty much nothing has touched it. Android or iPad. Matthew Venton super chatted says, Drew, I should now be commenting on every tech video for the next year. Currently on day 4. Love the videos, by the way. Been here since 7K. Subs, you're doing great. Oh, thanks, Matthew. Okay, it's a long journey. One comment on every video for an entire year. Will you get anything out of that? I don't know, but I guess thank you. Imagine if Apple Silicon Mac Pro is like Quad M1X or something like that. Oh God. Yeah, I've heard that theory float around, but the performance would be pretty crazy. Matthew Fenton super chatted again. He said, "Uh-oh, Starlink. Yeah, we're still technically in beta, but it has been pretty choppy lately. Like, it was getting a lot better a month ago, but maybe Starlink is adding too many people all at once, so the bandwidth is getting lowered. They haven't launched any recently. I think they're about to kick up again this week. So hopefully when they add more satellites to the fleet, they'll be able to scale better. But yeah, it used to barely drop below 1% frame drops a stream like a month ago, and now it's going up again towards like 2 or 3%. You read Tesla's mission statement? Wow. But it's like one sentence, dude. It's like, accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Done. Doesn't matter if that's cars, HVAC systems, robots. That's all that matters. Kai? Is it Ichinos? Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it, super chat, but thank you. iPad needs monitor, second display tech, not just screen mirror. Preferred Tab S7 Plus for my needs. I need to know specifically what the Tab S7 does that the iPad doesn't. Because as far as I'm aware, like of all the Play Store apps I've ever used on Android, they've never scaled well on the iPad. So I am overall just not wowed. The hardware is impressive, but the software I've yet to see much of a like substantial leap of like, I guess, what does it have? External monitor support? Is that what it's got? I don't know. Matthew Superjetted, you're right. I will not gain from this quest. I appreciate it nonetheless. It's nice of you. I mean, I don't really get anything out of it, but will the old watch bands work? Thanks for making all the great content over the years. Yes, as far as we're aware, the old watch bands will still work. I'm guessing that the newer watch bands will just work more somehow. Similar to how you could use your 38 millimeter watch bands on the 40 millimeter Apple Watch, and you could use your 42 millimeter watch bands on the 44 millimeter Apple Watch, but they just don't sit quite as flush. They still work. It's just a little bit of a gap there. And I think it might be something similar with the Series 7. It's like you can technically do it, but it's just a tad bit off. Let's see. When do you think Apple Watch will be able to gauge blood pressure? Yeah, I thought they were talking about that for a while, but I haven't seen any development on it. So maybe next year. It feels like Series 7 is all about the redesign, so you can't really do redesign after redesign after redesign. So I'm guessing if we're getting a updated look this year, probably a couple more health sensors next year. That would be my bet. So excited for Apple Watch to get a bigger screen and smaller bezels. That's what I've wanted from the watch. September can't come quick enough. Yeah, that's a welcome change. I'm excited for. RV says, love the new Tailosive B-roll logo. Wow. Who the heck is checking that thing? Shout out to Nathan. Nathan, who used to do the live stream thumbnails for the Twitch streams back when we were on Twitch. He just DM'd me randomly over the weekend and was like, hey, I updated the profile picture for the Tailosive B-roll channel. For those who don't know, I got frustrated because I wrongfully was issued a couple of copyright strikes last year. So I decided to make a channel specifically for making royalty-free B-roll that people can use in their own videos. You know, credit if you can, but I'm not going to come after you if you don't credit me. But basically, all the B-roll I put on that channel is free for people to download and use in their own videos. And thankfully, people have. I was watching a Starlink video someone made from a channel much bigger than me. I can't remember the name. But the video had several million views. And I was watching it just because I was curious about the content in general. And in the middle of the video, he started showing B-roll from my Tailosive royalty-free B-roll channel. I was like, hey, that's my dish. I know that one. He was scrolling my subs. Oh, I get it. It would still be Tailosive, though. It'd be low in the list. Anyway, good eye. Glad someone caught that. Thank you, Nathan, for making that picture. Alpha says, I don't like the idea of robots. Tesla is really scaring me right now. Yeah, it's a legitimate fear, I'd say. A lot of people are worried about the government spying on them. Man, wait until AI gets itself into robots. Then you're going to be wishing the government was spying on you. It's just going to get much, much worse. Oh, my God. How many of your channels do I need to subscribe to make the equivalent of a YouTube member? Currently subscribe. Well, YouTube member, for those who don't know, on Tech and EV, we have YouTube memberships, which is $2 a month, and you get loyalty badges. The more people we get, the more custom emojis we unlock. Subscribing to my channels doesn't financially do anything. It's the equivalent of following someone on Twitter. Like, it just means you're like interested in getting notified when they post new content. So I guess you could subscribe to all of the channels I've ever made, and it would not be the equivalent financially, but if you're just talking about moral support, then I don't care. It doesn't do anything to me. Just subscribe to what you want, and that's it. Daniel says, my 12 Pro Max overheats all the time. Even watching this for 5 minutes, the screen has dimmed. I pray the 13 has improved this. Yeah, I'm thinking about making a video about that because that is a legitimate problem. I've had the same thing when FaceTiming with my 12 mini. They heat up very easily. They heat up very quickly. If you can't pay, then just watch, RV. Like just watching my videos helps me out. So as long as you're doing that, I get reimbursement for that. Cormac Young, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate it. Subtle plug. It also has OLED if that's important, although I don't really care. Oh, the Tab S7 supports an external monitor and a desktop mode. Gotcha. So that's one step of the process, but it's a bridge to letting you do more. So my question is, what like software are you utilizing? I'm glad it has that because I want the iPad to have it too. But what software are you utilizing on the Galaxy Tab S7 that's like, I can't do this on the iPad Pro, but this app, this use case, other than just the monitor, that makes apps bigger, cool. You can have a bigger screen now. But is there like video editing applications or software writing applications or music writing applications, or is it just gaming? Like what exactly can you get with the Tab S7 aside from the just external monitor support, which I agree is cool, but let's see. Please do more Tailosive TV videos and vlogs. Yeah, someone was asking earlier about Tailosive Talks. My father is visiting soon, and he wrote a book. So we're going to talk about the book he wrote on the Tailosive Talks podcast later this week. It's about, there's actually a lot of me in it. It's a lot about raising kids and how he's recommending people to, be more involved with the development process of raising their children. So there's a lot of personal stories about me in it. I'm very excited to read it because from the chapters I have read, there's stories that I don't even remember. I was like, really, that happened? And of course my sisters and stuff. So it's exciting, but I'm glad he got the book out. But we'll dive into it more over there. That's obviously not a tech subject, but for those curious, like my dad is the original Apple sheep. Whole reason I'm into Apple products is because of him. Like I grew up in an Apple household, right? Like we only had Apple computers. We had iPods. I guess my parents had flip phones when the iPhone was around. They weren't really sold on the iPhone until I got one. No one in my family had one, and then I was like, no, Mom, like the iPhone 5 is so cool. Come on, I got to get it. And they didn't buy me tech. I was using my own money that I saved from working, but still they were hesitant to let me buy Apple products. That might even be a chapter in the book. I don't know. I haven't read it yet, but I just know from several occasions I had the money to buy certain tech products and they were like, no, don't. It's irresponsible. Eventually they let me, and then once they saw how useful it was and how cool it was for me to be having a smartphone and all the camera performance and the music playing and all the features, then like 6 months after I got my first iPhone, everyone else in the family had one. They were like, cool. Yeah, raise your own dang kids. That's what the book's called. There's no arguing the iPad is superior. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not trying to say the iPad is superior. I just frankly haven't used a Galaxy Tab ever, and I want to know specifically what it has over the iPad aside from external monitor. Max Hunter says, good evening. We'll get the new watch simply for the new design, slightly larger display. New sensor would be nice though. Yeah, oh, for sure. I'm not really in the market for a new health sensor because I just feel like the current ones are not super useful to me. But there's been several people proving me wrong in this live stream. I've had not one, but I think 2 separate users just in this live stream, which I'm sure there's far more people outside of this live stream that are claiming they got, what's the term? irregular heart rate patterns detected by the ECG, and then got it checked out by a cardiologist, and they actually had problems. So I kind of put down the ECG a little bit and say like, it's not that big a deal. You don't need it, but there's clearly some people benefiting from it. So yeah, maybe I shouldn't talk down to it so much. What's your opinion on the 10s Max 512 in space gray? How am I supposed to have an opinion on that? What are you looking to buy one? Tell me how much it is. It's better context than just, what is your opinion on the silver iPhone 8? 10s Max 512? It's fine, I guess. Battery life's a little weak. I'd probably push you to get the 11 Pro Max. I wonder how much more that would cost you. Y'all think that the Watch SE will get lower prices? It should. It really should, because I'm going to be very confused / concerned if they keep the Series 3 around this year, because it's already so old and it's so slow, and I'm not sure how many more WatchOS upgrades it's going to get. So it makes far more sense to me for them to scrap the Series 3 and then lower the price of the SE. Maybe it's too much for me to assume they could get it down to $199, but that would be perfect. Oh my God. Maybe that would be too good. That's the problem. Like, everybody would buy the SE if you could get it for $199. But, we should also be honest with ourselves. The Series 7 probably going to look pretty good. It's going to have the squared off edge design. It's going to have the larger display. And right now, that's the main differentiating factor, right? Series 3, small display. SE, bigger display, rounded corners, more up-to-date design. So if the Series 7 comes out and that has the bigger display with thinner bezels and the more up-to-date design, maybe the Apple Watch SE will suddenly feel more dated. So they're okay with that price being lower. I don't know. That's a tough one. I could easily see it going either way. I could see them keeping it around, but oh man, it would just be like downright cruel to Wear OS in the Android Wear community. Like all the Galaxy watches and all the Pixel watches would just have no hope. The OnePlus watch would just be obliterated if you could get an Apple Watch SE for $199. It's like, you can't top that. It's gorgeous. Okay, Drew, what advantages micro LED have over OLED besides burning issues? Well, there's a lot of misconceptions. I don't even know, based on your typo, exactly what you're asking. You could be referring to mini LED or micro LED. Mini LED is out and exists. Micro LED has only been done in very low volume experimental forms. It's at a few TVs at CES, but it's really not in any mainstream. It's not in any smartphone or watch or laptop or computer monitor. Micro LED has been in the theoretical realm of display tech for years now. It's been basically better than OLED in every way. The pixel density is lower. It consumes less power. The display panels are thinner. It doesn't have burn-in. Basically, if you look at OLED and take away any possible disadvantage and then add a couple advantages, that's what micro LED is supposed to be. So it should allow you to have a more, again, pixel-rich image. You should be able to go over like 500 ppi, 600 ppi with micro LED, and it should be thinner, so you can pack it into a smaller device overall. It consumes less power, prolongs battery life. It's supposed to be brighter. So but no one has found a way to really mainstream it or mass produce it and get it into an everyday consumer product so far. Mini LED is basically a heavily modified LCD display. So Liquid Retina, that's what we have on our 2018 iPad Pros. And even my iMac Pro here has a LCD display, which means it's got one big light panel. The individual pixels don't emit their own light or very much light at all. So you have a giant panel behind all those pixels that adjusts your brightness. So when you adjust the brightness settings on your Mac, that's adjusting that one big panel. Mini LED, instead of having one big panel that lights everything, has like thousands of little lights, so that if you want a certain part of the display to be far darker, similar to OLED, but it's not technically OLED, you can turn off those mini LEDs and turn on others so that one part of the display is bright and the other part of the display is dark. And that's why you can get like the Liquid Retina XDR display, when you have a mini LED iPad Pro. And this technology is supposedly coming to the MacBook Pros in a couple months soon. The M1X MacBook Pros, they are supposed to be basically high dynamic range, but it's not OLED. And the advantage of mini LED is there's no burn-in. And because it's still technically built on the LCD platform, it's easier to get it up to 120 hertz. That's probably why they did it on the iPad Pro, and they didn't just jump straight to OLED. There's another fair share of advantages. I think the peak brightness with mini LED can be higher. That's why you can get like up to 1600 nits peak brightness on the mini LED iPad Pro. Of course, no burn-in or less burn-in. And the downside is mini LED takes up more space, and I think it's slightly more power hungry than OLED displays are. So that's why the mini LED iPad Pro, what did I say, Pro? The mini LED iPad Pro is slightly thicker because that extra layer of individual LEDs takes up a tad more space. So OLED has improved. They've found ways of making OLED not have as much burn-in and having better contrast ratio and better peak brightness, but it's just a different type of tech. The main difference with OLED compared to an LCD is that the pixels themselves can emit enough brightness that they don't need a backlight like LCD does. So OLED displays are thinner and more power efficient because the individual dots are the ones creating the light. You don't have a separate layer. Anyway, hope that answers your question in some way, shape, or form. Mash Dash says, could you add like live and red text on the live stream so after they're easy to differentiate? Okay, I've seen this comment brought up a lot. I'll just acknowledge that I'm thinking about doing it because I've had a couple people bring it up, but let me just tell you why I haven't, so people don't watch these going, what the heck is Drew thinking? Why doesn't he add live to the thumbnail? The main reason I haven't is because YouTube, in my opinion, makes it fairly obvious how to differentiate the live streams from edited videos anyway. For one, instead of published, it says streamed. Next to the view count, it'll say streamed. The other part is the time code. You always see the time code when you see the live stream, and it'll say an hour or an hour and 30 minutes. So I think people know when the video's that long, it's probably not an edited one. It's a live stream. And if I put live in the thumbnail, that's technically untrue for the bulk of the live stream's life. Because once I'm done live streaming, it's not live anymore. And I know that a lot of people would think, oh, of course it's not live anymore. There's a time code. But I have run into the issue in the past where I will do a live stream and people will start commenting after the live stream has ended, thinking that the live stream is still going because they don't understand that it's a video playing over time. And they're commenting like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Like, they'll comment 10 times thinking that's them being in the live chat. You know, I thought that's painfully obvious. You know, I thought it was pretty easy, but I also think that being able to tell that at the bottom of the video that it says streamed. Let me see if I can show this. I thought it was pretty obvious. I'll go to my channel here. Hit the videos button. Yeah, okay, it does. So when you're scrolling through my videos, it says like, you know, this one got 2,000 views in 2 hours. This one says streamed 3 days ago. You know, 3 days ago, 3 days ago. This one says streamed 5 days ago. And also the time code. This one says an hour. This one says an hour over here. This one says an hour 30. It says streamed on each one specifically, and you can tell by the time code. So I'm thinking about adding it just out of popular requests, but I also don't like thumbnail redundancy. And as you can tell right now, like, we're live, so it automatically puts a live badge in text right here. So if I add a live red text to the thumbnail, it's going to be in the thumbnail and also on the side. And then I take the risk of some people thinking that I'm live streaming when I'm not, when they're actually just watching the video. So I think it's pretty obvious. I don't know if maybe people don't look for this thing, but I see like streamed, hour and a half, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 90 minutes. That one's probably a live stream. You know? So I don't know. I'll probably just run a poll and honor whatever the results of the poll are. But as far as I can tell, that's what I thought. That's how I thought people assumed it worked. It's like I follow lots of channels that do live streams and also do edited videos, and I find it very painfully obvious which ones are streams. I think it's better for the differentiating when the stream go live rather than after. Not sure what you mean. Trying to understand that statement. Add the text. Drew, you are painfully obvious. Thank you. I assume timecode doesn't show up in Discord notification, and both YouTube and Discord keep passing live streams as new video. Well, yeah, that would not. That's a problem with Discord. I don't know why Discord does that, but when I just schedule a live stream, which I do want to, because I want to give people a little bit of a heads up, a little bit of a warning of like, hey, I'm gonna go live in the next 15 or 20 minutes. YouTube will pick up that not YouTube. Discord will pick up that scheduled stream as a new video and put it in notifications, even though I'm not live yet. I don't know if there's a way to get Discord to stop doing that, but that's going to be a problem whether I put live in the thumbnail or not. I think the live stream seems fairly obvious in my opinion. Yeah, when I smoke pot, sometimes I can't remember if a live stream is live or not. Well, the real question should be, if I'm cutting between a reaction angle and a just a face angle, is it really not edited? Why don't we just look at these as 90-minute edited videos? I don't know. I thought it was pretty simple. Like, YouTube makes it very obvious to me, but there's been a few times I missed your live not realizing it wasn't a pre-recorded just because at work it's a quick glance. Okay. That's fair. Timecode doesn't show up in Discord. Both YouTube and Discord keep passing live streams. Yeah, sorry, I read that one. It said live in your thumbnail for me. Not sure if I'm missing something. Yeah, I guess people are suggesting that I put live in the thumbnail even after it's not live, which to me confuses people. Someone was saying earlier, don't add live to the thumbnail. There's enough people here already. I haven't gotten any of my questions read. Well, you got that one. Sorry, RM. It's a bit confusing to tell what's a stream and what's a video at a glance. Once they are over, at a glance, they look identical due to the thumbnail. I have to look at the text or the time code. Well, I get that, but the argument can also be made that way. It's like, if you're looking at it as a glance, are people still... I feel like if people aren't paying attention close enough to even see the time code, which takes up space in the thumbnail, are people going to be able to see the live part in the thumbnail too? Like, how big do I need to put live in the thumbnail before people realize that this is a live stream and not an edited video? Like, it doesn't need to take up the entire picture? Like, this is a live stream. Like, how obvious do I need to make it if the streamed and the time code isn't enough? If YouTube doesn't make it obvious, it's live. Starlink does. Nice. Yeah, you're true. You're right. You're right. Sorry if it's been asked. Is the 40 millimeter being discontinued being reported? Well, the Series 7, the 41 millimeter will be like the new 40 millimeter. So in a way, yes, but the Apple Watch SE isn't going anywhere. So the SE would still have 40 and 44. So not really. It'd still be there. As a compromise, add live in the title initially and then change it after the stream to avoid later confusion. I don't think that's the problem. I think people see the live when I am live. They're complaining that there's not a live after the fact. So are you saying do the opposite? That would make more sense, but it's just more work. I'm sorry. There's just already so many steps after I do a live stream to convert it into an audio file, then upload it onto podcasts. I guess I can add more steps, but just put stream in the thumbnail. I don't know. I feel like that's not going to be enough. I think people, if they're missing it now, I'm worried that they're going to keep missing it, even if I make it painfully obvious, because I find it obvious now. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. The bigger thing is the title. If the title had live in it, that'd be greatly appreciated. I guess I'm just worried about more people thinking that it's actually live when it's not live anymore. In which case people say, well, that's their loss. They don't know how the system works. And I'm like, yeah, I can apply that to the system currently. I can say that's your loss. You can set the chat to be disabled after stream is over. Will you think of setting that? I've seen that in videos. Yeah, that wouldn't solve the problem because people still go in the comment section thinking that it's live. If you look at your videos from 3 to 4 years ago, they are all just pictures of Apple things with a big live stream text. Yeah, I know. I didn't like that. I thought that got old really fast because when you look at my library of videos, it's like the same thing over and over and over again. But maybe that's not a big deal. Ooh, Argo says received my Starlink last Wednesday, and it's a game changer for our farm. Yay! Congratulations! I'm glad they got you hooked up. I heard Starlink just surpassed 100,000 users. That's awesome. Painfully honest to the point that it hurts. Yeah. I thought the whole live stream thing in every single thumbnail got old really fast. It just looks unoriginal. 260 down, 30 up. Ooh, that's really good. That's wonderful. Anyway, I appreciate all the super chats in our new members, but I do have to get another EV video uploaded, and I've got some chores to run today, so I'm going to sign off here, but I enjoyed chatting about the new Series 7 with y'all, and I'm not going to try to hide this. We're in a tech news drought, so yeah, whenever there's a lack of news, the videos on the channel will become far more personal. So that's why if you don't see a lot of stuff to be talked about, I'm going to start talking about more non-news related subjects. So stay tuned for those. You'll be seeing them shortly. And I appreciate you all for tuning in. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate your insight. And this is your Apple Sheep here. See you all in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.